My name is Sheila Corona. Welcome to Streaming Love and Sassy Seer Sheila, as this will be seen on both channels. This is A Keeper of the Eternal Flame by Jason Gray. Initiate of mystery, messenger of memory, builder of the inner temple. In an age where most minds chased profit and prestige, Manly Palmer Hall chased the perennial truth. Not for fame, not for doctrine, he remembered. Born in 1901 in Peterborough, Ontario, and raised in the United States, Paul would become one of the most prolific metaphysical minds of the 20th century. He was not merely a writer, lecturer, or philosopher. He was a vessel, a conduit for ancient wisdom that once flowed through Egyptian temples, Greek mystery schools, Hermetic sanctuaries, Masonic lodges, Vedic scrolls, and alchemical manuscripts lost to fire and conquest. Where others searched the surface of the symbols, Paul dove into their origin frequency. The secret teachings of all ages. In 1928, at just 27 years old, Paul published a work so vast, so detailed, and so steeped in sacred memory that it would forever cement him as a guardian of the esoteric. The Secret Teachings of All Ages is not a book, a temple. It is a codex, a temple built from paper and ink, housing the eternal architecture of myth, symbol, initiation, and truth. It contained Atlantean echoes, Rosicrucian whispers, Kabbalistic diagrams, zodiacal alignments, a voice that never lectures but invites, not into belief but into remembrance. Paul did not claim ownership of the knowledge. He stood beside it like a lantern bearer, illuminating an ancient staircase. A life of relentless inquiry. He lectured over 8,000 times in his lifetime, not to impress, but to awaken. He founded the Philosophical Research Society in Los Angeles, not as a cult, but as a sanctuary for the seeker. A place where ancient texts, comparative religion, Jungian psychology, and modern thought could converge without dogma. Paul's work bridged gaps between East and West, science and spirit, symbol and psyche. He believed that all paths, when followed with sincerity and depth, led back to the same source, a flame at the center of the labyrinth. I have to agree. Esoteric does not mean exclusive. One of Hall's greatest gifts was his ability to translate the complex, to distill the cryptic without diluting its depth. He understood that the mysteries were not meant to be hoarded by the elite. They were meant to liberate the soul of humanity. He did not posture. He did not gatekeep. He taught that initiation is not granted by man, but earned through the fires of the self. Above all, he believed that wisdom is not knowledge. Wisdom is lived truth. His Masonic journey, the inner temple rebuilt. Though Manly P. Hall spent decades writing and speaking on the teachings of Freemasonry, he did not formally enter the craft until later in life. In 1954, at the age of 53, Hall was initiated into Jewel Lodge number 374 in California. He was not just made a Mason in name, he embodied it. 2 years later, in 1956, he was coronated a 33-degree Sovereign Grand Inspector General by the Scottish Rite, an honor bestowed not merely for formal advancement, but for a lifetime of spreading the deepest truths of the craft to the outer world. He was not political. It was not ceremonial. It was recognition that Hall had been building temples of light long before he ever stood in a tiled lodge. His writings on Masonry, particularly his essays and lectures on the symbolism of the degrees, the architecture of Solomon's Temple, the myth of Hiram Abiff, and the mystery schools of antiquity, helped revive the soul of Freemasonry at a time when ritual was becoming rote. He spoke not as one who learned the symbols, but as one who remembered them from lifetimes before. What Hall truly gave us. Manly P. Hall didn't just write about symbols. He unlocked them. He did not just speak of the soul, he spoke from it. In doing so, he left behind a spiritual inheritance for those brave enough to read between the lines. He reminded us that behind every religious text, every myth, every temple, and every initiatory rite, there is a single burning question. Will you remember? The man behind the message. Hall lived long and died in 1990. There were rumors of foul play, of betrayal, of hidden hands, as there often are with those who carry truth into a world built on lies. The man is not what matters. The flame he carried is. That flame still burns in you if you have ever questioned what lies beyond the veil. If you have ever heard the ancient pulse beneath modern noise, if you have ever felt that your soul did not come here to obey, but to remember what was forgotten. Hall's final legacy, the returning builders. Manly P. Hall wasn't just preserving a tradition. He was activating a frequency, one that would awaken in the hearts of those who came after. He knew that in every age, when the world began to forget, the builders would return, not to rebuild physical temples, but to resurrect the inner sanctuary, the sacred chamber within every human being that holds the truth that cannot be taught, but only remembered. In that inner temple, the initiate doesn't just study the flame, they become it. The flame must be written again. This remembrance, this fire cannot remain locked in ancient texts. It must live through us. Just as Hall wrote, not for approval, but for transmission, so must we. Not as copyists, not as commentators, but as initiates in our own right, interpreting, decoding, and writing anew from that same inner flame that lit Hall's every word. This is not imitation. It is continuation. You must write not because the world is asking, but because the fire within you cannot remain silent. You must interpret symbols not as an academic, but as a soul who has lived them. You must step into the silence and draw down the truths that have no name and give them voice again with your own breath. The mysteries are not finished. They are unfinished on purpose. They require new builders, new scribes, new vessels, just like Hall was, just like you are. Hall did not leave behind followers. He left behind flame keepers. If you have made it this far, you are one of them. Pick up your pen. Open the inner scroll. Write what only you were born to remember. Let the fire continue through you. Wow, I have to agree. And I have lots of questions. Wow, okay. Must be why I was drawn to purchase the book, The Secret Teachings of the Ages. Although, while I was drawn to purchase it, I haven't actually read it, which is very interesting. I always observe myself when things like that happen, and I don't know why they do, but they do. So, what does this invoke for you? Have you thought that you have something to share, but you've kept yourself from sharing it? This is one of the reasons that I created Conscious Conversation Central to begin with. If you don't feel like you can write, but you want to talk about something like that, reach out to me. Come chat with me in Zoom. Let's record it. Let's share with the world what you might have to share. It's just a conversation. Reach out to me at consciousconversationcentral@gmail.com. Comment. If you have a blog that you would like for me to highlight, if there's something that you feel that you think I should read, send it to me. I'm happy to do these things. If I feel drawn, you betcha. Until we meet again, be well, my friends. Mwah.